Hey guys, welcome back to Wild West Woodscraft. My name is Trevor, and for this week's video it's going to be kind of a shorter video, but I wanted to show you guys, now that it's spring, how I'm collecting and disinfecting water now that I'm not melting snow anymore. So the temperature still can get below freezing at night, depending on the elevation that I'm at, but there's no more snow on the ground, at least not very much. There's a few little drifts left, but that's it. So now filter is a lot more viable of an option because I don't have as much snow to melt. So usually the way I travel in the summertime is I'll be following creeks and rivers. So I don't really need to carry that much water with me because I'm constantly around it, because I usually use creeks and waterways as the navigation method. So I'll follow these. They also provide fish, so they provide my food, they provide my water, and I really enjoy following them. It's usually beautiful, it takes you through really pretty country, and it's a great way to navigate without getting lost, because you just turn around and follow the same creek back to where you started. So for that reason, I don't have to carry a lot of water. So the water kit that I usually carry with me in the summertime, let me get it out here. So I'll carry a few items with me. My primary water system is this right here. So I have a small titanium mug on the bottom. I then have a pre-filter bag. If you're familiar at all with the millbank bag, this is essentially the same thing. It's just shaped like a bottle, so I can slide my filter into it. But this is just a heavy cotton canvas bag that works as a pre-filter if the water has a lot of sediment in it. So that way you're not clogging your actual water filter that purifies the water. So that goes on the bottom. And then the filter itself is going to be this Grail Ultra Press that is it's the titanium version. And so there's a few reasons why I like that, but first I'll show you how this system works. So the way it is it holds 16 ounces of water, and it's just like a normal water bottle. You have a screw top on the top to drink out of. You also have a wider opening if you need it. But how this works as a filter is it separates. So you have an outer container which is completely titanium, and it has these two butterfly handles right there. It also has a little D-ring up at the top there that you can attach a piece of cordage to lower it down into the water and pull it out to get water if you were, trying to get water off of a really steep bank, or even like off of a bridge or something. So that's a neat option. But that's your outer cup, and this is what collects the dirty water. And then what you do, so you collect the dirty water in this up to the fill line. You then set that in, and you're going to crack the seal on the top to let the air vent out, and then you're going to press down just like this. And it works kind of like a French press for coffee, where the dirty water is forced through this filter cartridge into the clean chamber. And so what I like about this system is, one, it gives me 16 ounces of drinking water very quickly. And that's nice if you're feeling dehydrated, or you've gone a long way without water and you come across water. You're not sitting there having to filter for a long period of time, or wait for a chemical disinfectant like iodine or some type of purification tablet, which can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 4 hours, depending on the purification method and the water source. And so this gives me clean drinking water in about 8 seconds of pressing. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer if this starts to get clogged. And one downside about this system is you only get, if I believe, it's only about 60 gallons worth of water through this filter before you have to replace it. That's what they claim. I find that generally you have to replace it a lot sooner. So usually, I would say every couple months I have to get a new one, but I'm out here filtering a lot of water. So the nice thing is you can just unscrew this filter cartridge and replace it very easily. And the nice thing about these cartridges is they have a one-way valve down here on the black ones. You can get two versions. There's the black ones and there's the orange ones. I like the black ones because it has that one-way valve. And so you can actually add like a drink mix or an electrolyte mix to your water. And that will, that one-way valve will keep those granules from getting inside the filter. So then you can just wash it out and your water doesn't taste like it anymore. So, but yeah, I really like this system because it's quick and easy. It also allows me to carry 16 ounces of water with me. Like I said, in the summertime, I'm following waterways, so I don't really have to worry about carrying a lot of water. So 16 ounces is usually enough. It's just light enough. I can carry it. I can just clip it to my belt, throw it around my shoulder, or throw it in a bag. And it's light enough that it's not a lot of water, but it's enough that I can stay hydrated. But the reason I like the titanium one, and it is quite a bit more expensive than just the plastic one, so you can weigh whether or not you want the titanium. But I like the titanium because I also have a metal container here that I can boil water in or even cook in. And why I like that is because if I'm not carrying any other metal container with me, if I'm just going light with just the system, I still have a backup method in case the filter were to fail or break. I can boil that water. And also I can use this as just a cooking pot if I need to. So I really like the titanium version. It's also more durable, so you don't have to worry about it cracking. However, it is a bit heavier. But I think the trade-off is worth it due to the cook pot being attached to my filter. So, and the titanium looks really cool if looks matter. But yeah, that's my filter method. That's my primary storage container and disinfecting method. The next item I carry is just this small 1 liter water bladder right here. So this holds 1 liter of water, and on it I have taped 4 water purification tablets as a backup. So that's 4 liters of water that I can purify with this. Now those tablets take 4 hours. So this is not my primary, but this is a backup in case my filter were to go down or I were to lose it. Another thing that I like about this filter is you don't have to worry about contamination. If you've ever had filters with a lot of hoses, that's what I grew up using. You're always constantly trying to keep the hose from touching the water and remembering which is the dirty hose and which is the clean hose. And it's kind of just a pain, especially if you're tired and you just have all these hoses that you're trying to keep from contaminating each other. In this case, as long as this cap is screwed on tightly, you could drop this entire water bottle into the creek and you wouldn't have any contamination to the clean water. Now you would want to make sure you dry off and clean off this cap really well before you take it off. But say I'm bending down to fill up the outer container with dirty water, and this rolls off the bank and lands in the water, it's not going to contaminate the whole inside. And I really like that. So I make sure this cap is always secured tightly until I go to press down. And in that case, I usually get away from the water source, so I'm not risking it falling in and contaminating. But the risk of contamination in this system is far less than any other system. Also, that filter cartridge does contain a charcoal filter as well, so it improves the taste of the water. If the water tastes really nasty, it removes some of those terrible flavors. Here in the Rockies, I'm not really worried about that. Our water is so clean that that's not a big concern. However, I have tested this filter in just a mud puddle in the middle of the city, and it removed all the flavor, and I didn't get sick after drinking the water. So it has an incredible amount of filtration, and it filters out the bacteria, the protozoa, the chemicals, as well as viruses, if I remember that list right. But I know it does all those. It might do some more as well. You can look up on their website. They have a lot of information on it. But it filters out everything I would ever be worried about, which I really like, because then even if I were to go to a different part of the country where different things are a concern, I'm not worried. I know my filter can handle it. Here in the Rockies, I really just have to worry about bacteria. That's really the only thing I'm worried about. But it's nice to know the filter can handle it. But anyways, going back to this bag, The reason I carry this is because with 1.5 liters of water, which this and the filter combined is 1.5 liters, it filters out enough, or that's enough water for me that I could walk away from a water source for a few hours and have enough water. So I like the ability to carry a little bit extra. And in this case, this packs down to hardly anything, and it allows me to carry that water. Whether I need to take it away to go cook a meal or whatnot, it's just nice to be able to carry a little bit extra water. Also, the way this valve works is it takes a considerable amount of pressure to force water out, so it kind of pressurizes the water. So that's also part of my first aid kit. If I were to need to irrigate a wound or my eye, I could use this and it would force the water out with quite a bit of force behind it, so it would help irrigate those things. It also doesn't leak, which is nice. So I mentioned this in my winter water video. I can keep this in my sleeping bag with me and drink out of it while I'm laying down, because you have to suck out of this mouthpiece, and it's not gonna leak or spill inside my sleeping bag. So this is just a secondary water option, or water storage container, and I always make sure this is clean water. So I never gather water out of the creek in this. This is clean water, and so then I would filter it out of here and pour it into this container. It's important to make sure you remember which containers are clean water and which containers are dirty water. I also have a 4-liter water bladder that I could take, that I usually just have dirty water in. That usually stays in my vehicle, but I could take that if I was going to be away from water for a long period of time. And then the last thing that I carry is just a cotton bandana. In this case, this is a Wazoo Gear bandana net. It has a mosquito net on one side and a cotton bandana on the other. And this is just to help. I could use this as a pre-filter, obviously. So I just put this over the opening of my container and allow the water to flow through it to filter out any sediment or debris. But also another reason I have this is sometimes water is really hard to find if you're not near a water source, and you might find a little seep or a little puddle, or even like a concavity in a rock that has a little bit of water in it, and it's not deep enough to be able to take your container and scoop it up. You can just get a little bit, and then you risk like scraping it across the bottom and getting gunk inside the container. So if it's just a tiny little water source, what I can do with this cotton bandana is I can put it down in that water and soak up as much water and then wring it out into the container. And yeah, it's gonna take a while, but it gives me a way to soak up small little amounts of water and wring it out into the container. You could even do that with like wet grass in the morning if there's dew on the grass. Oftentimes survival manuals will talk about taking a bandana and tying it around your ankles while you're walking and soaking up that water and then wringing it out. So just having an absorbent piece of cotton material is really nice for being able to collect small amounts of water when you can't scoop it up with the filter. That's another reason I have this small little titanium cup as well. On top of it being part of my ultralight cook system, with these two things combined, I can boil water, drink some coffee. This also acts as a lid for the container. So that's my cook system if I'm going really lightweight. But what I can also do with this is if there's a small little puddle, I can scoop up small amounts of water and just pour it into here, so I can get little tiny amounts and slowly fill up this container. So with all that combined, I'm pretty confident in my way, if there is water there, to collect it and purify it. This is also another metal container I could boil in if needed. But the only other thing I add to that kit would be some type of electrolyte mix, because it's important that you stay hydrated. And if all you're doing is drinking water and you're not eating enough sodium in your diet or electrolytes, what will happen is you'll actually flush the electrolytes out of your body. There's a fancy medical term for that I don't remember off the top of my head, but essentially what it does is it overhydrates you, and you have all the same symptoms of dehydration. So you have the fatigue, you're worn out, but it's going to, if you keep drinking water, it'll actually make you feel worse and worse. So it's important to replenish those electrolytes on hot days when you're sweating a lot. I prefer liquid IVs. It's just a powder that you pour into your water. It tastes pretty good. I like the peach flavor. but just make sure you're carrying some type of an electrolyte that will help replenish what you burn as you're on the move. That's very important, especially in the summer. Now that we've talked about what I carry and the why behind why I carry it, I'm going to talk about actually using this system. And a couple principles to keep in mind. Make sure, especially if you're not following a water source, anytime you come across a water source, make sure you're drinking as much as you can before you fill up your container and keep going. So in this case, my container is empty. So if I have been hiking and I get to this water source and I'm not going to be following it, I'm just crossing it and continuing on, I would drink probably 1 or 2 of these bottles before I filled it up again and kept going. Because you want to fill up your internal canteen or your internal water storage in your stomach rather than filling this up, already being kind of thirsty, moving on, and then drinking all of this sooner. So take advantage of this resource while you have it. Another thing is I consider this filter an expendable resource, meaning that I can expend it. Because I only have so much ability to filter water before the filter gets clogged. So whenever possible, I still try to boil my water. Now, the only time I really do that in the summertime is at camp when I'm going to be cooking. So any water that I use for food or even hygiene purposes, I get from here and then either boil it, or for hygiene, I just, wash my face and my hands with this water. This water is so clean, I'm not really worried. Now, I'm not going to use it to brush my teeth or stuff like that. Anything that'll go into my body, but I'm not worried about it not cleaning my hands. It's plenty clean enough. So I use filtered water for drinking only, and then cooking, I have to boil the water anyways for cooking, so I might as well take it out of here and then just boil it rather than filter it and then boil it again. It's kind of redundant because the water source is so clean here in the Rockies. So anyways, talking about how this system works. So when I come across a water source, I'm going to take the cup off. I am then going to set the filter aside and take the pre-filter here. And I'm just going to fully submerge it and get it wet because it has to be soaking wet for it to work. So now that it's wet, I'm going to scoop up some water. And as you can see, that water's dripping out the bottom. Now that's kind of slow, so what you can do is you can hang this up in a tree and set your outer cup underneath the filter or underneath the bag, and it will slowly fill it up. But if you're in a hurry and you don't want to wait around, I will just take my cup, set it somewhere stable, fill up my bag, and then I'm actually going to squeeze the water through the bag. It still forces it through that pre-filter, but it's a lot faster than just waiting for it to drip. Now, waiting for it to drip probably is going to filter it better, but again, the water is so clean here that I'm not really worried about it. To be honest, I wouldn't even use the pre-filter on something like this. The creek bed's made of rocks, and so there's not even any sediment that I'm worried about. It is so clean and fast moving that there's really nothing in here that I'm worried about. So in this case, I have this now filled with water. So I then take the rest of the filter, I crack the lid so the air can vent out, find a stable spot. You don't want to overfill this container past the fill line that's in it, because then it will shoot out and kind of make a mess when you try to press this down, because you have to make room for that cartridge. So then I slide that in, and you want to press it down evenly so that gasket around here seals properly. Otherwise, it's going to break the seal and the air will shoot out and water will shoot out the side. So you want to press it down evenly. And you're just going to apply constant pressure as it slowly goes down. Now this will get harder and harder as that filter starts to clog up, but it's honestly not too bad. If you don't have hardly any strength at all, maybe this wouldn't work, but most people could make this work because you can put your whole body weight behind it. And so now I have clean drinking water. And it tastes amazing. So cold, so crisp, so fresh. So it's as easy as that. I now have 16 ounces of clean water. I can repeat that process, and it's honestly pretty fast. I don't know, I have never timed them side by side, but I don't know if it's as fast as like if you had a hose and a pump that you were just pumping the water out of the creek through the filter and into a container. That might be quicker if you're trying to fill up a whole bladder or something, but to be honest, I don't think it's that much faster than this. And then I have my storage container that goes with me. I put the bag back on the sleeve after I wring it out. Just like that. Put the cup back on the bottom, throw this back in my kit, and I'm ready to go. So it's really that simple, that easy. That's why I like this system. But this whole method works for any water filtration system. Same principles apply. So use whatever system you like. If you don't want to use this, the other one that I have quite a bit of experience with is going to be the Sawyer mini squeeze system. And that's going to be like you're going to have a bag. You're going to fill the bag up with dirty water. You're going to screw the filter cartridge onto the bag. And then you just force the water through either by gravity or just by squeezing it. And that system is a lot slower than this. It takes much longer to get, 16 ounces of water, but that system only costs $20. So at least last time I looked, I haven't looked in a while, but that system's a lot cheaper, and it's more, I would say, if you're not using it as much, go with that system, because this is kind of an expensive system, but as often as I am using it, I think it's totally worth it. But that's another option too if you want something smaller, more lightweight, and cheaper. So anyways guys, that's kind of how I collect my water. Couple other things to mention. If you're filling up any container from a water source, especially a moving water source, when you go to fill the container, don't point the opening upstream, because then any debris that comes down will flow into there. So actually, for me, it's always weird because you think, oh, you put it upstream, it'll fill faster. It really doesn't, but that's just how my brain works. But anyways, you want that opening pointed downstream, so when you put it in the water, it fills up, but the debris doesn't flow into it. So that's just kind of a quick tip for you guys. Makes it easier, and then you don't have floaties in your water. Last few items to talk about is when you're looking for a water source to filter out of, just try to find a clean location. Moving water is a lot better than standing water, because it will be getting rid of some of that debris and contaminants. And you can, depending on the area you're in, you can go upstream a little bit and try to find a spot, make sure there's nothing upstream that's gonna, like an animal carcass in the water or something, that's gonna be flowing down into your water. Here in the Rocky Mountains, I really don't worry about that too much. Our water is so clean. To be honest, a lot of this you could probably drink straight out of the creek. I just don't really mess with that. But yeah, so just try to find a clean location to gather your water out of. And like I said, moving water is generally way better than standing water. But if you can't find, the perfect water source, it's better to hydrate than it is to find the best water source. So drink the water you have available. Make sure you filter it. If it's really bad, you could also boil it as well. But I've never really had to deal with that here in the Rockies. So, research your area, know what contaminants might be in the water, and figure out the best filtration system to, filter that out. One other thing to mention, because, you could build a water filter. Survival manuals always show these water filters that you can have like the sand and the charcoal and the grass and stuff in it. Those do not filter out the microscopic things that will make you sick. Those will make the water taste a lot better. They'll filter out all the, you know, large contaminants, but it's not gonna filter out the stuff that makes you really sick. Is that better than nothing? Yes, but don't rely on that to filter out stuff like Giardia and stuff like that. It will still go through that whole filter and get into your water. So a commercially available water filtration system is your best bet. And also there are other ways to collect water. You can dig what's called a coyote well, where you dig a small hole next to the water source and then let it fill up, and that will generally be a lot cleaner water. Again, I don't really mess with stuff like that. It's just extra work. You know, carrying something like this is not hard. And so, you know, a water filtration system or just a metal bottle that I can boil my water in, that's kind of what part of my essential kit that always is on body. It always goes with me. So I'm not really worried about having to, you know, collect water without, you know, some type of a container. But there are situations where maybe you would have to, and there are other things like stone boiling and stuff that you could look into. That's beyond the scope of this video. This is just how to collect the water using the system that I have and explain why I have it, because it works quite well for me. It's not perfect. There are definitely other systems, but this one works well for me, and I really enjoy it. It allows me to get out here and adventure more, have funner adventures, and I'm not worried about trying to get my water or carry a bunch of water with me. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. And until next time, adventure with purpose.